So with this, we've come to the final session of Instahiring 2020, the only TA Tech conference focusing on reducing the hiring lag. Recruitment marketplaces are changing the landscape of recruiting in a very big manner. This is not as old conventional recruitment methods, but quite different than that. As recruitment grows more competitive, many companies are thinking outside the box about recruitment. To talk about radical recruitment, we have with us Chad, who is the Vice President of Marketing and College to Career Speaker, an entrepreneur and a global marketing leader in EdTech, HR software, and SaaS, with decades of experience in building $10 million to $260 million businesses and bringing innovative products and programs to market with early adopters. He's led branding, demand generation, product design, web development, and inside sales for global enterprises and fast-growing companies. He's currently working as the Vice President of Marketing at Talview. Please join us welcoming Chad.
So I know that we're here to beat hiring lag, but over the last 4 days I've had one question in my mind: how do I beat jet lag? And no, I don't drink coffee, so I'm still figuring that out. It's a big responsibility to have the last presentation. We've had some amazing presentations. I can't really see everyone because there's some light, but I've had amazing conversations with many of you. And thinking about some of the great slides, I remember Abhijit's great drawings and his infographics about hiring speed and thinking, wow, my slides aren't that good. And of course, we can't forget Scott Wintrip's, Scott Flanders, another friend, Scott Wintrip's dance, the hiring shuffle. And I can't dance. So I thought we had a great time with the guest from Dunzo that came up. I don't have a guest. So what am I going to do? Well, I can tell you this. The stress of giving this presentation pales in comparison to the stress of raising 5 teenagers. So I was once told to connect with your audience right at the beginning, and so that's a little bit about me. I've got 5, not all teenagers, but 11 to 22. And they're all in that mode of, I need a car. Dad, can you pay for insurance? Can you pay for gas? So that's a bit about me. You've seen a couple of Americans, Dan and I, at the end of this conference. Dan's from Seattle. I'm from Indianapolis, which is near Chicago. And so that's just a bit about me. I like to think simply. We've heard a lot of great data analytics presentations, a lot of good suggestions. I wanted to bring this home with 7 predictions for the future. I'm not just the VP of Marketing. I've actually done a few things in recruiting. I've built some sales teams early on, inside sales, back in the .com era. I've built some customer service and online chat teams recently. And of course, I've hired marketers. I've built a team of 28 marketers at PSI, and I also led a global marketing team at Pearson in the assessment space. So the assessment space is definitely my background, along with recruitment automation. So I've had a fantastic few months with Dan joining the team at Talview, and I just cannot believe how good the presenters have been and the data that we've received here. So here we go. 7 predictions for 2025 and beyond, radical recruitment. We're here talking about Instahiring, this experience that lets you beat hiring lag. And also gives the candidate a better, faster experience that's mobile friendly, because that's what candidates want. And that's going to improve your employment brand, right? There's all this, it's this flywheel. It's like a flywheel. When you speed things up, you have more time for the human moments, or what I say is the aha moment. So my first prediction is that automation will create aha moments. So if a world-class recruiting program needs tech and people to work seamlessly, think about this for a minute. What kind of shape would you draw in Google Slides or PowerPoint to represent that type of system where automation and human moments go together? What type of shape? Would it be a circle, triangle, square, trapezoid, straight line, funnel? So what I came up with in my marketing brain, I love design thinking. I love to take large concepts like Scott's quadrants, deal breakers, deal makers, pluses, minuses, because I don't like to spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to think. I want to spend the time thinking about what I'm going to think about. So I created this. I would think of a shape like a bow tie. You want to automate the ends. On the left, you want to automate the outreach. On the right, you want to automate the onboarding. In the middle is where the magic happens. That's the aha moment. That's when the hiring manager and recruiter are excited because they've seen that the assessment scores, the video interview recordings, all the job descriptions, all that work that went in to hiring someone, that's when they can see that the candidate in front of them is tailor-made for the job. There's data behind it, and there's also good feelings behind it. You keep tailoring on the left. Once you have a hiring decision, you keep engaging. The time to hire is being sped along at the bottom, and the time to impact on the right. So what are some examples that you could utilize on the left and on the right to automate? Now, better job descriptions is really not automation. I mean, who thinks of a job description as tech? But you know what? It is. Automation is anything that you can standardize in a seamless process that's going to get you to your result faster every time. Create that job description that resonates, that gets the candidates you want. That's automation. Chatbot, culture videos, maybe a Facebook quiz on the left. On the right, how to use automations to onboard, learning management systems, faster payroll setup, team collaboration like Microsoft Teams, etc. So that's just a nice way to think about. Scott had his quadrants. I've got the bow tie. You know, and last night I was really thinking about, until jet lag hit me, I was thinking about finding a bow tie. But maybe next time. Prediction number 2. VPs of recruiting will be VPs of change. So what do I mean by that? Well, yes, I coined that next line. I think it's pretty good. People create change, and recruiters attract the people. So recruiters are really VPs of change. Recruiters are the ones that look at the world, these 9 billion people that we've learned about, in that great mentalist night we had last night. And they look at the world and they go, what types of people do we need to come to our organization? And then they build the right assessments. They build the right job descriptions. They talk to the hiring managers, the business line managers. So I think that VPs of recruiting are really VPs of change. A couple stats here. Over 35% of current heads of recruiting come from a role of outside of HR. And that's good because they'll need a keen eye on how to make new hires impact a business's trajectory or what makes someone stay. You know, there was a project I was in with retail companies in the U.S., and it said that the analysis on who stayed in their job was that 85% of people who had 5 years tenure in a store chain lived 5 miles or closer to work. Now that's obvious because we all like short commutes. I mean, Bangalore's got some traffic, but I did grow up, well, not grow up, but in my early married life, we lived in Los Angeles. Talk about traffic. I once spent 4 hours going to work just one way without any accidents. So that was tough. These are just some basic skills. We've heard about them, but skills that recruiters think will matter are how to engage passive candidates, how to analyze talent data to drive decisions, and how to advise business leaders and hiring managers. The bottom one, it's all about the bottom one. You can forget everything else. Recruiters are there to advise business leaders on the types of people and the traits that those people need to make an impact in the organization. Prediction number 3. Everyone will be part of 5 to 10 talent pools. So, we've all got data on us. We've got Facebook data, LinkedIn data. We've got data about our degrees. I've got a bachelor's in English. I met my wife in an English class. It took us 3 classes to realize that she liked me. That's a true story. The first 2, I asked her out and she said no. So, what am I? I'm persistent. That's why I'm in marketing and sales. The picture on the right is a Spotify website, which is one of the greatest inventions ever made. Happiness at my fingertips for my entire family for $15 a month. It's wonderful. They have a talent community called it's not called, but they use terms like join the band. Because they know that people that are into music aficionados, probably want to work at Spotify, even in IT or sales or web development or operations, all the different functions. Anyone with a data profile suggesting success will be auto-targeted. How about these examples? These relate to me in marketing because I'm always writing emails and always writing web page copy or thinking about a presentation like this. Example number 1 of thinking about how you could reach out to a talent pool. Did you know 24 of your fellow graduates work in our company? And half have been with us for over 6 years? I mean, could you imagine getting that email? I'd go, wow, good job, marketer. Good job, recruiter. You're really understanding me and what could kind of make my decision to work for you better. Example number 2, we love employees with your corporate finance and startup experience. Want to apply? So I'm sure you could think of better ones. Those are just 2 quick ones I thought of. But imagine that there's talent pools. Well, I mean, what's a talent pool? It's essentially the groups of people that have applied, did get the job, they're in your company. That's the ultimate talent pool. They've left your company, they're alumni. That's a good talent pool to tap again, especially when you get a new CEO in 5 years and there's all new products and business lines. Go back to that same well, right? And then, of course, people that you haven't hired yet. That's a great potential talent pool when you recognize the traits that your successful employees have that the applicants need to have. And, of course, assessments can help there, understanding that predictive analytic dashboard of the traits. Next prediction. Gen Z will search. This is my favorite prediction. Of all the ones I did, this is my favorite. Like I said, I've got one kid that thinks he's a teenager, an 11-year-old, 2 real teenagers, and a couple that they're now out of the house. By the way, my 4th kid is a professional ballerina, didn't go to college, and she fits this mold perfectly. Gen Z will search for experiences, not jobs. I truly believe this. This is my best guess for the next 15 years. Today at Cisco, as an example, it's normal for people with more than 2 years in a role to search for a new one, and the company's okay with that. The culture's okay with that. So, what can you do if you've got this Gen Z, which let's just say is between 10 and 22, something like that, and they're in high school? I have literally had at my home in the last year, my 17-year-old daughter, my 3rd child, is on the cross-country and track team. I've literally had 30 cross-country runners at my house every Monday night for like 4 months in a row for a TV show. Now, the TV show is actually the Bachelorette. I don't know if you guys watch that here. I don't really condone it a ton, but yeah, I watch it a little bit. The morals could be a little better, but at least my kid doesn't do other things. These kids will work harder than any other generation. You know, we talk about demographics, we talk about the baby boomer. Actually, I'm not sure what they talk about in India, but in the United States, they talk about the baby boomers, the greatest generation, I think was before the baby boomers of World War I, and then Gen X, like myself, and Gen Y, and Gen Z. Let me tell you, Gen Z, they work very hard, but there's one thing that they need to do. They need to do a TikTok right after they work. I mean, it's all they do. It's like we used to write in journals, they just TikTok it, you know? I use Facebook, they use that. So, but relating to this point, they work a ton. They're on their phones like 3-way homework sessions at night, and they do more homework than I did as a child. They need to work in packs of people, teams of people, that they all enjoy each other, and they're going to work like crazy. But here's the problem. They get a little antsy, and they don't have a ton of patience, and they want experiences quickly. And so if you guys, not in the next 2 years, but if you in the next 10 years, and anyone who can do it in 2 years, more power to you, and you'll own the world. But if you can make jobs sound like you're joining Spotify, and really let them work in roles, but as part of a cultural magnet to a job, because you're going to get to work in this sort of environment with this sort of tech on these sorts of projects, and then you're going to move here, you're going to rule the world. I've seen these kids, they're all at my house all the time. They work in packs. They like the positivity of each other. So, and everything's quick. Easy apply, easy onboarding, career pathing, career mobility, feedback loop. Oh my goodness, feedback loop. They'll give you feedback, and you have to be ready for that. I've got people I've worked with that give a lot of feedback, and you got to take the feedback with their creativity as well. On the right is a Find a Journey website by Fuel 50. I think Fuel 50 is a vendor. That's not a company, it's a vendor, but I thought this was so good. So I know it's a little hard to read, but imagine putting on your site, where do you want to start, and what's your target role, and then need some ideas to get started. So again, I'm an assessment person, so I'd throw an assessment in there, a career guidance assessment. But next prediction. This is very near and dear to Talview. It's one of our rawer principles that I think will be converting to rare. But for now, it is remote, automate, and reuse. The last one's engaged, but that's what it is today. Remote and flex work will be the #1 job benefit. So this is really a representation of Talview's 7 locations. And we don't really have 7 offices, but we're in Bangalore, of course, and that's our hub. And we've got an office in Singapore. And then in the United States, our headquarters is in San Francisco. And we're in Seattle, and we're in Texas, and we're in Indianapolis, and we're in Florida. And we do that because we want to hire the best, and we want to attract Gen Z, well, not Gen Z yet in our company, but we don't have enough roles. But a younger generation that wants to work, at least in marketing, on my team. Bill Gates, I don't know if anyone caught this. Forbes actually made a big deal about this for the last 6 months. Bill Gates said 20 years ago that the number one job benefit and the differentiator of workforces will be if you provide flexible work. I mean, it's coming to fruition right now. 40% say the top benefit of remote work is a flexible schedule. The next one really is interesting to me. 19% of people have traveled to another city to work for 1 to 6 months a year. So I had a boss about 6 years ago. This is a true story, and he's a guy that doesn't have a lot of airs about him. So when he says it, it's what happened. He's not a marketer. And he got a new boss the next day. He was an executive. The next day he went in and said, oh, by the way, my wife wants to do a master's program in Scotland at the University of Edinburgh, so we're moving there next week. You have any problem with that? Can I still do my job? And he was a high-level executive, and he was allowed to work from Scotland. Of course, he did some traveling, and that's probably why it worked out. But his wife was able to get a master's degree from the university that she wanted to attend while he was still keeping that job. And that happened 5 or 6 years ago at Pearson. Some other stats there. People that work remotely work really hard, even when they're sick. And I can attest to that. Prediction number 6. And by the way, I think I'm going to end a little bit early because it's always good to end early, especially when you're the last speaker. Multi-gen teams will be a force. In a recent poll, 70% said they like working with other generations. Older workers appreciate younger colleagues' tech skills, creativity, and perspectives. And younger employees value older coworkers' wisdom and experience. So, I really believe that in the future, and it's happening now as well, that because of the labor force participation rate, which has gone up from ages 65 to 70, it's gone up about 30% in the last 15 years, so more people 65 to 70 are working. They don't know how to TikTok, Facebook, Slack. I mean, sure, they can learn it. I'm not, right? But generally speaking, it's not native to them. But it's native to the Gen Ys, the Gen Zs, some of the Gen Xers. And they're going to form a power team. They're going to just an absolute power team. Put them on a project, see what they can do. They'll think differently. They'll challenge each other. Here's some new grad skills ratings that the lady is representing in this picture. They're rated proficiently on the right, but the companies consider essential, what that competency is considered essential is down the middle. Things like critical thinking and problem solving. Everyone needs that, but they're only rated at 55%. Well, these guys or gals, the older generation, they've got that. That's how they even survived. That's how they've survived wars. That's how they've survived marriages. That's how they've survived teenagers. They've made good decisions. They can teach Gen Y. Leadership, considered essential. I mean, who wouldn't consider any role to have leadership? But 69% of companies said it's critical in the majority of their roles, but the new generation's only rated at 33%. Last prediction. This one I like a lot. I said I liked the talent pool one. I can't even think of what I like the most. The talent pool one, we're going to go back. Oh, experiences, yeah. This is probably the one I like next after experiences. Job descriptions will help solve cultural fit. So there's all this worry about skills, and you got to have the skills, or you have to have the education that you're working on to get those skills. But I think this is an interesting thought by this AI company named Textio. It's like I'm an ad for this company because I've had a couple, not like big presentations like this, but just a couple discussions lately where I brought them up. I'm really not getting paid anything. But I like what they said here. How you ask a question determines who answers it. Wow. That's heavy wisdom. How you present a job changes who can see themselves in it. So how you ask a question determines who answers it. I mean, in your brains right now, you think about that. I don't have the best examples, but in just kind of thinking about it, if I was I am a VP marketing, so talking to my team as the VP marketing, and I go, the last 2 product launches weren't that good. They kind of just fell dead. Guys, I need a really bold idea. We had a really good time at that last conference talking to all our customers. I heard us all talking to, this customer. Who can remember some of the best kind of nuggets of wisdom that our customers told you? And who has some thoughts of taking what your customers said and giving us some ideas on what we can work on for our next product launch? You've got whole other groups of people that would go, oh, I feel positive about that. I did have a good conversation, right? So the way that you ask a question, there's probably a better one for parents. I can't think of it. But when I go to my son and say, well, actually, clean the house. So, there's ways that you approach your kids if you want them to do stuff. Generally involves bribery, but doesn't have to. So now translate that to your job in HR. So how you present a job changes who can see themselves in it. This company on the right, actually before I go there, even though this screen is like ginormous, it's amazing how you can't read. It's amazing, but yeah, I think we need like some retina screens that you can read stuff. But 28% of 400 hiring managers that were surveyed, this is so amazing. 28% said they're not sure of the interpersonal skills needed for the job. And they're the hiring manager. That's the number one dilemma of writing a job description. They're just not sure of the right traits needed to succeed in the job. I mean, wow, how do you even write a job description that's going to elicit the right response, that's going to resonate with the right people without that? Basecamp. Who here has heard of Basecamp? I'm just curious. They've been a company, I don't know the CEO like personally, but we've done over the last 10 years a lot of social media back and forth, so I kind of feel like I know him. If I saw him in Chicago, and I said, hey, I'm the guy that asked you this last year, and you responded with this, he'd probably go, yeah, I remember you. Jason Fried. So Basecamp has a lot of transparent job descriptions. And here are some words I found in a recent senior software engineer job description. Managers of one thrive here. Your trust battery is important. Here are 12 examples of real work that you'll be doing. Expect to relearn a lot here because we do things our own way. Or even things is just upfront, which is very important in the job description too. Be very upfront. This is a remote job, but we do require 4 hours of Central Standard Time overlap, which is Chicago. That's going to narrow the pool immediately of who's going to apply. How you ask, how you describe the job is going to, if it's too tech savvy of a job description, but yet it's really a project management role. It's really a leadership role, right? You want to bring new thoughts to the table. Maybe the way that you've managed a certain rollout of technology in your company has not worked. You need a whole fresh new approach. Don't make the job description so tech savvy, right? There's just different ways you can use words to connect with people. So those are 7 predictions I have. I think you can take some to the bank. And I know Dan will say a few words, but I just want to take this time to give, I think we should all give Sanjo and Sandeep and Shilpa and the team at Talview a ton of credit, and all of you, because I've been to a lot of shows, the SHRMs, the EREs, big other business shows. We've had some of the best audience participation, some of the best speakers I've ever seen. So let's give ourselves and Sanjo and Sandeep a round of applause. Thank you.
And before we have Chad exit, if you have any questions for Chad, we're happy to take those.
You should have asked me. I'm done.
No, not so easy. You're my colleague from the United States.
There's 45 seconds, Dan.
Indeed.
Use it. Use it.
No. The audience, I know somebody in the audience would love to ask a question with Chad's experience. Anyone?
It's late.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's my friend.
Could someone bring him a microphone, please?
Chad, this is in with respect to the cultural slide which you last happened to have shown. Yeah, so when it comes to the remote hiring for, in instance, any industry, so if a recruiter who is sitting in an offshore location, so is catering for a region which he has not visited ever in his life, he is unaware about the cultural happenings, how people think, how people react. Obviously, it's different from geography to geography. So how do you think that gap would bridge in? It's like, what should be recruiters or somebody sitting in the talent acquisition should be inculcating measures to bridge that gap?
That's a good question. This is my first time to India or Asia, so I'm living proof of that. You know what? You know where the answer to a lot of life's problems are and a lot of businesses' problems are? I know this is not the perfect answer. Feet on the street, your sales force, and those that are on the street in your company, they know the culture. They know what works. They know what doesn't. And obviously, you know, they need to get to know that local culture. And yeah, I would say use assessments that are validated for that office in that industry. Assessments are great to find kind of the middle ground of what you need to be successful. And then talk to salespeople. You can never go wrong talking to salespeople.